Hi, I'm Dave DeWitt, and today I want to talk about how we got our English Bible. Originally, the Bible was written primarily in two languages: the Old Testament in Hebrew, with a few passages in Aramaic, mostly in Daniel and Ezra, and the New Testament in Greek. The largest Aramaic section is Daniel 2:4 through 7:28. There's a few words and phrases in the Gospels in Aramaic, such as Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani in Mark 15 and Hosanna in Matthew 21. But for the most part, we can think of the Bible as being written in Hebrew and Greek. The Dead Sea Scrolls provided the most significant discovery of Hebrew manuscripts in existence today. There are about 40,000 handwritten manuscripts in the original languages of the Bible, with more being discovered regularly. The Apocrypha is a collection of 14 books written in Greek during the Intertestament period. These books were included in the Eastern Orthodox churches, but not in the Western Roman Catholic Church. The Western Catholic Church followed only the Hebrew text for the Old Testament, and the 27 Christian books written in the first century, known as the New Testament. It should be noted that there are no other Christian writings of the first century which the church left out. There are only 27, and they're all in the New Testament. The Roman Catholic Church did not include the Apocrypha until 1546. It was a part of their Counter-Reformation, apparently to support the idea of people paying indulgences to the church to pray for the dead, as noted in 2 Maccabees 12:39-41. The 400s was the first major translation of the Bible into Latin, done by a Balkan monk named Jerome in the 400s, and he started it in Rome. It was completed in Bethlehem. It was known as the Latin Vulgate, simply means common Latin, and it became the official Bible of the Roman Catholic Church. Between the 500s and the 1200s came the Dark Ages, where the Bible was kept from the people in the Western Church by maintaining the Latin Vulgate, which only the priest could read. The original texts were studied and copied by monks in monasteries, preserving the Bible through the Dark Ages. In the 1300s, the Wycliffe Bible was the first English Bible. It was translated from the Latin Vulgate by John Wycliffe and his friends in the 1380s. Over 30 years after his death, Wycliffe was labeled as a heretic, and his bones were dug up and burned by the Catholic leadership. It was feared that translations of the Bible into English would lead to wrong interpretations and limit the power and influence of the clergy and the church. The 1400s is known as the Renaissance. The 1400s saw the invention of the printing press by Johann Gutenberg. The first book printed was the Gutenberg Bible in 1454. It was printed in Latin. It was printed in Mainz, Germany. It was an edition of the Catholic Vulgate, which was carried to America by Columbus. So the first Bible to reach America was the Latin Vulgate in 1492. The 1500s is the century of the Reformation. In 1516, Erasmus produced a parallel New Testament in Greek and in Latin. Erasmus corrected errors that had been crept into the Latin, producing a better Latin text. Erasmus' text was used by Luther in translating the Bible into German and for the Tyndale Bible into English. William Tyndale, who died in 1536, his translation in the 1500s was more accurate than Wycliffe's translation in the 1300s because it came from the Greek rather than the Latin. He was finally arrested and burned at the stake in 1536, praying God would, quote, open the eyes of the king. His prayers were answered 3 years later when Henry VIII of England renounced the Roman Catholicism and had himself declared the head of the Church of England. And in 1539, funded the printing of the English Bible known as the Great Bible. Henry VIII was succeeded by his sickly son Edward, who died young, and was succeeded by Henry's first daughter, known as Bloody Mary for obvious reasons. Mary tried to return England to Catholicism and killed anyone who produced an English Bible. At this time, a group of English Protestants fled to John Calvin's domain in Geneva and translated the first complete English study Bible known as the Geneva Bible. So here we have the first study Bible. The Geneva Bible was the first English Bible to use our Roman-style letters and verse numbers based on the work of Robert Stephanus, a Protestant convert from Paris. So this is also where we get our first verse divisions in the Geneva Bible. This was the primary Bible of William Shakespeare, Oliver Cromwell, John Knox, John Bunyan, of his Pilgrim's Progress, and it was taken to America on the Mayflower in 1620. In the 1600s, Bloody Mary was succeeded by her sister Elizabeth, who had a long reign and returned England to Protestantism. But she had no children. To find a king, Parliament went to the line of Margaret Tudor, the sister of Henry VIII, who had married James IV of Scotland. And they had James V, who had married Tudor, who had James VI, who became James I of England and ruled from 1603 to 1625. James I commissioned a team of 54 scholars to translate the King James Bible, completed in 1611. The King James Bible, also usually known as the KJV, King James Version, was carried to American colonists by John Wycliffe in 1630 and gradually replaced the Geneva Bible in America. The KJV, King James Version, has become the most printed book in the world with over 1 billion copies. In the 1700s, the British ruled it was legal to print the Bible in other languages, but illegal to print an English Bible in the Americas. But with the American Declaration of Independence, American independence changed all that. In 1782, the United States Congress authorized the printing of the Robert Atkins English Bible for use in schools. The 1800s saw the development of Bible distribution societies. The first was the Philadelphia Bible Society in 1808, then the New York Bible Society in 1809, followed by Bible societies in Baltimore, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine. In 1833, Noah Webster of the Webster Dictionary, realizing the English language had changed a lot since 1611, produced a modern variation of the King James Bible. Possibly the Webster Bible was ahead of its time because the translation didn't sell very well. Apparently, people weren't ready for it. In the 20th century, we have a controversy between the King James only people and those who saw a need for a modern translation. The problem was more than the Elizabethan English of the 1600s. The bigger issue was the discovery of thousands of more Greek manuscripts. The King James came from the Greek text called the majority text because it selected a word used the majority of the times in the available manuscripts. The modern translation used what was called a minority text. Due to thousands of new discoveries of manuscripts, it was possible to use other criteria, such as geographic location of variants, as a way to determine an accurate text. Although there are many others available, we'll comment on just 4 translations. First of all, in 1971, the Living Bible pioneered the idea of an idea for an idea paraphrase of the text. Also in 1971, the New American Standard Bible was an attempt to use the textual analysis available through the increased number of manuscripts to produce a word-for-word translation into the English language from a better Greek text. But it does sometimes consider the dynamic equivalent of a word rather than the lexical definition. In 1973, the New International Version used the later Greek text, but produced a phrase-for-phrase translation. The NIV employs the dynamic equivalent principle to a greater extent. The idea the committee used was to render what they believed to be the dynamic equivalent of the original author's intent into 20th century vernacular. Then in 1982, we have the New King James Bible, which followed the manuscript evidence of the original King James, but updated the grammar and vocabulary to modern English. Well, thank you for listening. A paper on this subject with the dates and footnotes is available on our website, relationalconcepts.org.